Have you ever heard the saying, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth? Well, it shouldn't be like that in most cases, including the one on capital punishment. Capital punishment is unjust, sometimes prejudiced, and ineffective. For those reasons, it should be banned. A quote from Amnesty.org states, Amnesty International opposes the death penalty in all cases without exception. The death penalty is the ultimate denial of human rights. Basically, what this quote is saying is that it's an ultimate denial of human rights, meaning the unalienable rights like the right to liberty, life, the pursuit of happiness. It's gonna interfere with those rights because they're gonna execute an inmate who's been convicted of capital murder, any federal crime. And it shouldn't be that way because, I know, yeah, sure, many people are going to say that that person deserved to die because he killed someone or did, like, massacre or something, but it shouldn't be that way because that prisoner just chose that way of life. He should be more introduced to imprisonment for life, or he should be punished by hard labor. Those are some better ways to view it. Primarily, pharmaceuticals are refusing to sell the lethal injection drug. Therefore, untried drugs are being used on condemned prisoners, causing the convicted inmate to die painfully. A report from CNN News shows, quote, now that pharmaceutical companies refuse to supply the lethal drugs that U.S. corrections departments have been using for years to execute criminals, states have begun to experiment. Death penalty opponents, who call themselves abolitionists, then protest the use of these untried drugs that just might cause a condemned killer to feel pain as he or she dies. CNN News. Okay, basically what this is trying to say is that many states are beginning to use untried drugs, and these could have many toxins that cause pain while basically terminating their victim. And this is not right because, the inmate's gonna be suffering while he's dying, and it shouldn't be that way because that is very inhumane. Secondly, statistics show that capital punishment is prejudiced towards black inmates being executed at greater proportions than white inmates. Comm. In 1980, Clarence Brandley, a black inmate who was convicted of federal crime and sentenced to the death penalty over his white accomplice. Quote, one of you two is gonna have to hang for this. Since you're the nigger, you're elected. These, a Texas police officer's words directed at Clarence Brandley, who was charged with murder in 1980 and was later sentenced to death. Brandley's story is one example of racism and the death penalty. Deathpenaltyinfo.org. Basically, yeah, it's very prejudiced, but it shouldn't be that way in most cases because, what if that person was innocent and was found guilty, but yet he didn't deserve to die? It's not right just to accuse someone because of their color, race, ethnicity. So that's another reason why the capital punishment and death penalty should be banned. Finally, capital punishment, like the death penalty, is ineffective as it will only keep them from suffering imprisonment and heavy labor for life. In a passage from AmericaMagazine.org, Senators Patrick Leahy, Democrat from Vermont, and Edward Kennedy, Democrat from Massachusetts, both opponents of capital punishment, argue, quote, suggesting as an alternative a real-life sentence for murder and heinous crimes. By this they mean life sentence without the possibility of parole. AmericaMagazine.org. I really agree with this because, if that person killed someone, he shouldn't just be punished by getting terminated, his life being ended. He should be punished by hard labor, being in prison for life, alternative ways that will keep that person from dying, but therefore still being punished differently. Okay, like I said, pharmaceuticals are refusing to supply the drug, therefore, lethal injections are going to cause the inmate to feel and suffer pain while he dies. Capital punishment is not only beginning to become painful to inmates, it's also racially prejudiced towards those of minority groups. And last, putting inmates to death row will just be as ineffective as it will give the convicted inmate an easy way out of working heavy labor for the rest of his or her life, as well as imprisonment until death. Sure enough, the victim's loved ones would rather see the murderer go through an execution, but he or she will just get the easy way out and won't pay for his crime he or she has committed by serving years of imprisonment and hard labor. Thank you for listening to my speech, and have a great day.